Belichick, early 70s, and this 24-year-old is a hot babe on top of that. Now, I think that gives him the edge over every coach in terms of the intangibles.
It's going to be used.
While Dabo's looking up in the sky waiting for divine intervention, this guy is thinking, as soon as this game's over, I'm getting laid by a 24-year-old hottie. Edge Belichick. And then you would have to say, whenever you did one of those things about who has the advantage, offense versus defense, you're going to see the coaching box. And what happens when Bill Belichick is going against Mario Cristobal at the University of Miami? I mean, who's going to have a giant – that would be like triple check marks, enough to eclipse every other advantage that the Miami Hurricanes might have in that spot. I always go back to our good friend Al Bernstein and the word intriguing. I think this is a very intriguing proposition to see Belichick at North Carolina.
You bring up Cristobal because you're going to watch games and go, oh, sorry, Cristobal. Like, see him up against, and I can't stand Belichick, but you would think X's and O's wise. He's definitely not going to have a problem kneeling.
Yes. No, he wouldn't have been handing the ball off in that spot.
And he wouldn't have kicked that field goal. Remember, he's the one that went for it on 4th and 5 from his 20 because he did the math. Like, if he has Cam Ward, he's not kicking a field goal there.
No, nobody in their right mind is kicking a field goal there. It's insane.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
Nothing like a good sports talk argument. We've been living off this shit for a long time. All right, welcome to the show, a Degenerate Friday edition of the Defo Show with Mike Lubie Lubitz, of course, at the controls, and a very, very vibrant participant on these programs over the last year. So as we wind up 2024, we're looking forward to good things. A lot of changes, maybe even might venture into a new platform there, Lubie. I'm hoping that comes about. So working on a few things here for 2025 to finally get ourselves out of the gutter. We're trying to peel ourselves off the mat here in this streaming industry, which is exploding for everybody but us. It's just been a cherry bomb right up our ass. But no, we're having a good time with it. I was working on a couple of things, and this is coming out really lame, Lubie. Should I even go ahead with it? The Christmas poem. So I was working on this actually for the Bury Your Bookie show that I do on nofilter.net, and it follows this program. The professor should be featured today if he's aware of it. I believe he is. Okay, and pretty sure I sent him all of the pertinent link information so that he can sign on, because I believe he's going to be on fire during the postseason in college football. I think so. I think he's really going to knock it out of the park. All right, so here's what I was working on, Lubie. You tell me if I should go any further with this, because it kind of got progressively worse and less. And it didn't start out all that great. That's the weird thing. Okay. It was the Friday before Christmas, Lubie, and all throughout Caesars were a bunch of degenerates, mostly old geezers. What do you think so far?
I like the beginning.
Hanging in there? Okay.
Yep.
Here's where it starts to go downhill.
The second line.
Second verse, same as the first, right? It's Hermits. They were betting all the favorites, hoping to cover a spread, knowing full well all chalk players wind up heavily in the red. Eh? What do you think? Didn't do anything for you?
Not really. But
Okay,
keep
good.
going, I guess. Just keep going.
Good luck with your wagers on the college football playoffs as we're trying to bury your bookie with some life-changing payoffs.
Okay.
You like that? But it doesn't go anywhere. I mean, it starts nowhere, ends up going nowhere in the middle, and then ends up flat as a Parisian runway model.
Probably need a couple more lines, I guess. Maybe to make it.
I don't have any more. I don't have any more. I had to feed the dog. I had to let him outside to take a shit. I mean, there were a lot of things.
It goes right after this.
Creative process here, really. Plus the fact that I got to it very, very late, and then I looked at the sporting activity from last night. It was wild last night in the NBA. If you were a chalk player in the NBA last night, you ate the big one, and not only that, but you got annihilated. Look at these games, Louis. The Timberwolves were 2.5-point favorites over the Knicks.
Oh, the
Knicks 133, Timberwolves 107, and that was in Minnesota. Karl Anthony Towns came back to Minnesota. It was celebrated. I was glad to see that, Lubie, weren't you? Because it wasn't like Karl Anthony Towns wasn't screaming, "I want to get the fuck out of here." He got traded in what was supposedly going to be a beneficial trade for whatever reasons for both teams. Now, the Knicks definitely needed some kind of a powerful force in the middle. They got that last night from Towns, 32 and 20. in the ball game. He had 20 points in the first half. He was nailing everything. So he was definitely in celebration mode, and perhaps motivated by the return to the city that he spent the first 9 years of his career. Timberwolves came up dead flat in that one. This game, actually, Memphis was favored by 4, but it's worthy of mention because of the final score. Memphis favored by 4 over Golden State. Curry goes 0 for 7 in the game, one of like 2 games in his career where he hasn't tallied a field goal when he played. And the final there, 144 to 93.
Yeah,
a blowout of, what are we looking at there? 51-point blowout? A 51-point blowout. What is this, the Yukon women playing Wingate? Get the fuck out of here.
What the hell was that?
Boston favored by 14.5 over Chicago, and the Bulls win that game outright by 9. You had Dallas favored by 6.5 over the LA Clippers. The Clippers win the game outright by 23. You had Sacramento favored by 5 over the Lakers, and the Lakers win that game by 13.
What the hell was that?
That was part of the crazy
weird night
of NBA basketball. We do have a good one tonight, Lubie. Would you be inclined to go down to whatever the arena is called, Kaseya Center? Kaseya Center?
I think it's still Kaseya for now.
Yeah, I don't think that's changed. And you go down to the Pat Riley Court there and watch the Heat take on the Oklahoma City Thunder, a very good team. Thunder getting a point in this ball game, Lubie. What do you think? Both have been about the same against the point spread. Actually, both favorable covering point spreads so far this year. Over-unders are similar. Oklahoma City, very good team out of the West. They just got beaten by Milwaukee in the coveted Emirates Cup game for the championship of the in-season thing. Can you believe that Darvin Ham, in explaining why he thought it was preposterous that he got fired by the Lakers, actually cited the fact that the Lakers won the in-season tournament last year?
Get the fuck out of here.
I mean, that's strike 3 right there, isn't it? If he didn't deserve to get fired for his performance as a coach, he certainly deserves to get fired for thinking that was of any consequence. So that was pretty wild. But Heat hosting the Thunder tonight, so a good team in town. And the Panthers also will be on the ice tonight at home. And is that somewhat of a rarity, Heat and Panthers both home on the same night?
I'm
Do
sure
the leagues look at that and try to make sure that doesn't happen very often? Because it doesn't happen very often, does it? Shouldn't they have one game in the afternoon and the other one at night? I guess on a Friday afternoon before Christmas. People are all having their Christmas parties. So, yeah, maybe nobody would be attending that thing. And who would be the team that got shafted and had the afternoon game on a Friday? If this was a Saturday, you would hope to see that because that was one of my favorite things to do. Talking about these are a few of my favorite things. Back when I was in high school, we loved it. The friends of mine and I that were inclined to do this, we would go and see the Knicks in the afternoon, and then at night, the Rangers would be playing. We'd go to the doubleheader, get tickets for both games. So we're like $2 a piece. That was great. Yeah, spend the afternoon in the city there. Wasn't a big museum guy, but we'd stuff our faces with stuff that we bought on the streets. And in between games, go walking around, come back, and catch at Madison Square Garden. This was the old Garden. Whichever it was, I don't know. What would be the better thing to do? Play the hockey game first? What's easier to do? Pick up the basketball court, just put it over the ice?
It's on this. Oh, they played at the same place. Oh, Jesus.
Same place, yeah. They both played at the Garden.
Would you play that? The hockey at night probably makes the most sense.
I would think, right? Because you could put the hardwood right over the ice.
Yeah.
And hope that nobody goes sliding off the court there and hits their head on the fucking ice. Anyway, yeah, that was good. But we do have the 2 games tonight, so that'll be exciting. And then, of course, the Dolphins play Sunday against the 49ers, a big game. We are the city of false hope. We know that, Lubie. Do you hold out any false hope that the Miami Dolphins, they need, as we say, a ton of help? I couldn't even begin to start to explain what help they need.
Chargers fucked them. I think they're done. I mean,
that's it. That eliminated them last night.
I don't know
because they fucked me too because I had Denver last night plus 2.5.
Yeah, it would have been. Well, Denver had a nice lead and fucking it fell apart. Herbert finally
they rolled right down the field on the first 3 drives. Was that a big adjustment that was made by the Chargers defense? 2 good coaches, by the way, going at it, right?
Yes. It was a really well coached game, really well played game. Herbert did what he hasn't really done his whole career. He played really well at the end of the game. He made plays for 2 straight drives that catapulted his team to scores, and the Broncos did not do that in the second half.
Who's your rookie of the year? Is it clear cut Jaden Daniels or
Oh, I think it's
does
Nick.
Bo Nix get into the picture?
Hasn't Nick Daniels fallen off? Like Nix has been consistently good the entire year. Like
Yeah. Well, he's come on actually. He started out poorly.
I know he struggled the first month, but like he's been playing really well for a long time now. Daniels started really strong, but I haven't heard much about him the last month. Like I'd have to look at their stats.
He hasn't had the same magic.
I would lean Knicks. I mean, and the Commanders, they're not going to win that division. Are they even going to make the playoffs now? I think the Broncos are pretty much, even with that loss, they're solidly in the playoffs. The Dolphins are really the only team that are challenging them for that last spot. And again, even if the Dolphins win, fine. So they're 2 back with 2 to go. Like I don't even know. Like, do they have tiebreak? The Dolphins rarely have tiebreakers over anyone. So like, I find it hard to believe that they're going to win out and these teams are going to lose. One of these 2 teams is going to lose 2 in a row. Like the Chargers losing last night would have been very interesting. Once they won, I think it's over.
Looked like they were going to get destroyed. I mean, the offensive line of the Denver Broncos was just making Red Sea-like paths for their running backs, and they were jamming it right down the throats of the Los Angeles Chargers. Again, you saw at SoFi Stadium that it was mostly Bronco fans in the crowd. Is
that why the cheering? Because that threw me off. Because like when the Chargers scored, the Broncos scored a touchdown.
Yeah, people
go up 11. And Harbaugh was losing it because I guess there was a penalty, but then the penalty didn't affect the play. And the crowd
it did affect the play in terms of it was a legitimate penalty. They had illegal man downfield, and the lineman was clearly like 5 yards past the line of scrimmage, blocking somebody. So, yeah, I mean, how they picked up that flag was remarkable.
Yeah,
I don't know what made them decide that. They said the guy was engaged in a block or something.
I don't know, but Harbaugh was lost. The Broncos got the touchdown, and there was cheering, and I was like, "Oh, is this that it's LA?" Like I'm really because I'm like, where is this game being played?
Very typical of the Charger games.
They had the Charger insignia in the middle of the field, and I'm like, okay,
put the other team's logo there. Yeah,
I'm like,
you could make it more obvious.
Really that bad? Like it was way louder when the Broncos were. It wasn't like here. I know you'll hear Jet fans, and then you'll hear or Knicks, and it was loud for the Broncos and quiet for the Chargers.
Yes, it was crazy.
It was weird.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Lubie, it's that way every game for the Chargers at home. They have no fans. And whatever fans they have, I believe they buy season tickets only so they can scalp them and sell them to fans from out-of-town teams that come in to play the Chargers. Chargers having a pretty good season. Jim Harbaugh, an incredible record. Now, this is good coaching, and it's something that you could look at. I don't know that I don't even want to mention Mario Cristobal again, but he may have this on his resume too, but I don't think anybody really does to the extent that Harbaugh does, where almost every time he goes to a new situation, the team has a definitive increase in wins.
Yep.
Every place he's gone, whether it was college or the pros, they have a major uptick in the number of wins they have from the season previous to the first season under Jim Harbaugh. Is that not the mark of a good coach? You would have to think. Plus, it's on multiple levels there, college and the pros, and different times in both spots. So, yeah, Jim Harbaugh, pretty good coach, as is his brother John. Maybe underestimated for the job that he's done this year with the Chargers, because you remember you were saying about Herbert.
Lost.
Herbert has staggered around under previous coaches.
Yep.
A little bit, especially in the clutch. And now all of a sudden he's coming through. I turned that game off and started watching something else with the confidence that up 11, getting 2.5, I was in pretty good shape. That I didn't think the way the game was going and the way the pace was being dictated by the Denver Broncos that getting up essentially 2 touchdowns. I mean, I would have lost by the hook if the Chargers had eclipsed the 11-point lead, and then they would have had to have 2 unanswered touchdowns, which, of course, when I turned back to the game, they did. The fuck? That was a disaster, that outcome. So, all right. So you're saying that effectively eliminates the Miami Dolphins, that they don't hold any tiebreakers. I don't know.
I don't know.
Did they win their last 3 here? Is that possible? Or did they lose to San Francisco at home against a depleted 49er team that hasn't been anywhere near meeting expectations for the lofty expectations that they bring into every season? I can't believe how far off I was on this Dolphin team, though, Lubie. I never thought that you would be looking at a Dolphin team that was sub 500 at this stage of the season. Sub 500.
I mean, this has been look. They're talking about Tyreek Hill being washed. it's hard to fight it when you watch. I mean, maybe he's hurt, whatever it is. He doesn't look the same. And
No.
I get it, they're rolling coverages and all that bullshit, but elite players find a way to make plays, and he's not doing that. Like that, excuse me, like that play is a play he makes. Yeah, Tua should have thrown it earlier. He went up for it. He had it in his hands. Like Tyreek Hill comes down with that ball and usually does like a dance, and they're celebrating on their way to getting a touchdown to possibly tie the game. He let the dude just take it from him. Like it was a really weird play, and it's sort of been a microcosm of him this year. The drop thing is continued from the last couple of years, and he's not putting up numbers. And I get it. They're making sure no big plays. Yeah, but there's still plays to be had, and we've seen that. Like Jalen Waddle's woken up the last few weeks. Like I don't know. The whole thing, their defense, which they put a ton of money into, has been a sieve. Like it's a really weird year, and you're not hearing anything out of the Dolphins. Like that's my problem. Is all these people are speculating what happens with Greer, what happens with McDaniel. Like you're not hearing anything. Like, can they really? Because Perk's latest thing, and I think he still wants to get rid of Greer, but McDaniel, he's sort of supporting him. He's like, with all the injuries, with everything that's happened, you sort of have to give it one more year. And I'm like, why? Like, why are you still doing
both of these guys?
I don't know about Greer, but I know with McDaniel, I know it's been very.
I don't know if I would fire McDaniel at the end of the season. I'm not sure. I don't know what to make of Mike McDaniel yet. And it's another one of those cases where you really want to like the guy and you hope that he's successful because he would be a cool guy if he was.
Yes.
I mean, he's sort of he's not as much of a presence in terms of the things that he's saying, becoming widely spread throughout the public. I mean, we don't even know what the guy's saying anymore, do we? Speaking in tongues, which I guess this kind of a season would kind of drive you into some level of insanity. But and he was kind of crazy anyway. But I would really enjoy it if he was a successful coach, wouldn't you? I mean, it's about time we had one, isn't it?
Yes.
All of the guys. I mean, we knew that Smoking Joe Philbin was going to be, at best, a mediocre disaster.
Never.
I mean, it just didn't strike me as an inspiring, nice guy. It turned out he could not have been any nicer of a
really nice guy.
A classy guy. I didn't realize he had such a foul mouth until we saw the HBO
Hard Knocks,
where they did the Green Bay Packers, and all of a sudden, who's doing the Mike Westhoff? Joe Philbin. Never would have thought that in a million years. Didn't he seem like such a polished gentleman?
Well, when they had a Dolphins Hard Knocks,
he deserved to be a football coach.
They had a Dolphins Hard Knocks, and he was a fool on that Dolphins. He's the one that was
his first year, right?
Yeah, that was Devontae Davis shit. They let him know your best corner, and they just say like it's nothing, and he's supposed to just.
Oh, yeah, I mean, completely in the dark. Wow. I mean, that was very revealing about how the Dolphin franchise was being run at the time. That was probably a very unfortunate thing. Were they forced to do Hard Knocks? I think so.
Yeah. They were made
either do Hard Knocks or play your first 6 home games in Germany. Wasn't that the deal? Yeah.
There was some weird thing where no one wanted it, and the Dolphins had to do it.
Yeah.
And then Joe Philbin was focusing on picking up the trash from the facility. It was like, what the fuck is going on?
I have an indelible impression of when we had to approach him for that interview. And he immediately said something to me along the lines of, I hear you have a nickname for me.
That was the best.
And I was like, oh, fuck, man. I mean, I don't mean anything negative by this. I mean, we're entertainers. That's what we are here, attempting to be entertainers. Although if you heard the first 3 verses of that stupid Christmas poem, you're probably thinking, hey, maybe you ought to take up another profession, right? This is one of those things, one of my favorite lines ever that I got from an interview. Fight trainer that I knew very well out in Los Angeles, a guy named Benny Giorgino, who appropriately was a bail bondsman as well. And he was the trainer and manager for a couple of guys that I was pretty close to. Of course, mentioned many times, my buddy Albert Davila, still going strong, and Danny Little Red Lopez. So he had 2 top guys that were world champions in his stable, and he had several other fighters that were of great promise. And I asked him something about, what do you do? One of his guys got knocked out in consecutive fights, who was being highly touted. And I said, so what do you tell him now? What do you do for him when you go back into the gym? He says, I hand him a copy of the classifieds. Like it's time to get a new fucking job, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, in a case, I still remember we walked out there, Louis. You were with me, and when Philbin said that, what was your reaction? Yeah, because you didn't care, because I was going to be the guy that was going to get punched in the face.
Well,
So.
we were wondering if we were like, do you call him that? Do you bring it up? And I was like,
I wouldn't. I'm never inclined. I didn't think it was insulting. I mean, it was not necessarily the most. It wasn't unflattering. But it was indicative of the fact that the guy displayed zero personality.
Yes. You called him Smoking Joe because
Smoking Joe, yeah,
it was
because he was far from it.
He didn't air, a lot.
It wasn't like you thought, "Whoa, shit, man, that's Joe Frazier."
Well, because that's the thing. But Joe Frazier too actually wasn't known for Mr. Personality either. So I took it both ways. Is Smoking Joe Frazier was known as that because he was a ferocious fighter, but he also. Remember, he's the one that got pissed at Ali, even though Ali told him, look, dude, this is for the cameras. We need to get him up. He's still, you said how, like, you had him on years later and he needed an interpreter, but like his son, he still had issues with Ali. Like, he didn't like how Ali handled any of it because he didn't have personality. So they
eventually resolved their differences, though.
Okay.
Which were mostly, Joe Frazier had every reason. I mean, the demeaning
Ali
fashion and ugly fashion. And Ali had that streak in him, too. I mean, remember what he did with Floyd Patterson? He just absolutely eviscerated the guy. And, and then he had other times. Yeah, what was it, Patterson, that he kept pounding and saying, "What's my name?" I think it was.
Yeah.
Where Patterson refused to call. No, that was another fighter where he refused to call him Ali, and he kept beating the shit out of the guy and carrying him round after round, saying, "What's my name? What's my name?" So he had a little bit of that in him. I don't know that all of that was innocent fodder to sell the fight.
Ali always talked
with
about
Ali. I mean, but yeah, a lot of people interpret that as being particularly cruel. But later in life, Frazier eventually patched it up, and Frazier had been very generous with Ali when Ali wasn't doing well. When he was suspended for the 3 years and had his license taken away, Frazier was like giving Ali money and taking care of him. And then he came right back and started, demeaning him again and making all of these defamatory statements about Smoking Joe Frazier being an Uncle Tom and all of this stuff. It would be very insulting at the time. I mean, you have to consider when this was going on, Lubie. To be considered like an Uncle Tom.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
It was ugliness.
So right.
Frazier was far from that.
So the nickname, we took it in jest because that's everything we do on the show is in jest, but it was not a like it was.
No, I mean we were kind of making fun of the fact that he had no personality. So essentially, you're walking up to a head coach in a National Football League. You're on his turf. He's got like his guys kind of lined up behind him, the PR people and all of this. Was Jason Jackson, not Jason Jackson, Jason Jenkins?
Jason Jenkins was the dude.
Was he on the scene there as well? I can't remember if he was in the background.
Always there.
Probably was, right? Because you're doing a head coach interview and it's a one-on-one that was mandated because we were the flagship station. So every year we got whoever the head coach was, some kind. Not every year, but that particular year we did.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, shit, here it comes, man.
What do we do?
It turned out he loved it. He absolutely fucking loved it. That
was the first thing he said. He was like, "I heard you have a nickname for me," and he said it like deadpan. It was like, "Oh shit!"
I really thought it was going to be one of those Jim Rome, Jim Everett moments.
It was great. He's like, "I love it." I was like, "Oh, thank God."
The same thing with Kevin Coyle, the defensive coordinator, when we had to meet him. And I don't think were you with me when that happened. I don't think so.
No, I was at the station, and I remember you're like, "Lubie," I'm like, "Yeah, what's going on?" They're like, because you were calling him El Finito, and that was not positive. Their defense sucked, so it was like
at that time. No, they were doing okay.
But the El Finito wasn't a pod. The El Finito was they had turned it around.
Yeah,
but early on, they never stopped anyone, so that's why you called them El Finito because they can't stop shit.
Oh yeah, no, we were.
So they
I think that was prior to that though that we met him because I met him before the season. I remember Jenkins coming up to me and saying, "Our defensive coordinator wants to meet you."
What was the second year? No, this was the second.
Oh, it was the second year. Okay.
That year they had done a good job. The first year he came over from the Bengals and it was a lot of hoopla, and they did not do a good job. I remember that's why we called him El Finito because they couldn't stop anything, and you did it like all fucking year. And then Jenkins walks over and he's like, "Our DC wants to talk to you." And you're like, Lubie. I was like, what's going on? You're
The
like,
last thing I want to do, I want to have
well,
a
he
cup
wants
of
to talk
coffee,
to me.
sit in front of the fan while it's 95 degrees out there, bark out 4 hours of radio, do a bunch of live spots, and get in my car and go home. No,
Oh my God, that was classic. And
I
then
don't want
you
to
turned out to be a fucking
be
fan.
basted by some guy who thinks we're making fun of him or doing a lousy job. It just goes to show you. I mean, and it's funny too because if you listen to the program director. Then there was nobody listening to our show, Libby, and here was the entire Dolphin organization.
Yes.
Not even getting together. It wasn't like it was playing in the locker room or something, and they were forced to listen to it like it was
On their
other
own.
good music, which it could have been our show to a lot of people. But yeah, I mean, Philbin's listening.
Yep.
This guy's listening. It turned out the whole defensive coaching staff,
Whole
if
staff,
they
yeah.
weren't paying attention to our show, they might have done a better job, Libby.
That was our joke.
Yeah, we should have been outlining things like Orlovsky does.
That was our joke.
But yeah, he loved it, man, because it turned out he had a similar background, right? He grew up, I guess he was from Brooklyn.
Yeah, New York. He was like the New York
So
area.
he knew all of the New York shit, and he was saying we absolutely love every minute of this shit. And the last thing I was expecting though was for Joe Philbin to embrace being considered smoking Joe Philbin. Then people stole that, right? I mean, you would hear that on other radio shows as if they made it up themselves. It's like, come on, man. It's not like it's so unique that you couldn't have thought of it also. But
No, you called him because you did it in every interview. Whenever we would have someone on, you'd be like, "So, what are your thoughts on Smoking Joe?" And everyone knew, like Perk would come on,
yeah,
like it was classic. Hyde would come on, and they'd be like, and
yeah,
I would hear them use it, and I'm like, well, at least they're paying homage somehow.
yeah, that's homage. I mean,
But
when
the
another radio
articles,
guy's doing it, yeah.
Hyde in his article would call him Smoking Joe.
Phil.
Like, oh my God.
All right. Well, that was part of our past there. It's a distant past. The professor's going to join us here. We have the college football playoffs. Have to get into that. I recommended something yesterday that is absolutely suicidal. Professor, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. How about yourself, Dave?
Doing very well. I mean, I'm feeling good. I love this time of the year because everybody just starts fucking off as of maybe last week. It just exacerbates itself as we get closer and closer.
It's
to
pretty
the
much
big day.
true, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I recommended this. I mean, what do you think about this? I'm looking at the bushel of points that's being accorded all of the underdogs. I think the smallest spread is 7.5. Correct? Is that
No,
right?
it's 7 as of today. Tonight's game is sitting at 7.
Oh, okay. So Notre Dame and Indiana 7. I don't know. We'll get your opinion on this in just a minute, but yeah, I mean, I'm inclined to at 7 and a hook. I was very much inclined to go ahead and take a shot with Indiana. I don't know. Maybe that's crazy, but that being said, my thought was do a 7-point teaser on all the dogs, and you're getting a ton of points in every game. Could you see that, or would you be sending the
I
limit?
think the one you got to worry about in that is Penn State and SMU because SMU was so bad in the snow last year.
Okay.
In the Fenway Bowl against Boston College, which was very fortunate for us because we had Boston College. I want to say we got like 12 or 13.
Wow.
And we even took a little taste on the money line on exactly this theory that the weather was going to be too much for SMU. And I wouldn't be shocked. And supposedly it's just going to be an out-and-out disaster in State College tomorrow.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
So that would be the one that would bother me. And again, I'm not, either, spiritually or in terms of point spreads, a Penn State fan in particular.
Right.
But I do think the weather in that game could be a serious problem for SMU.
All right. Yeah, I mean, look, there are bound to be holes that you could poke in any betting theory. But yeah, to tease all of those games, I mean, you're getting like 14, 15 and a half, even 18 points.
It'd be 19 and a half with Clemson.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot.
I don't know what these games are going to look like. I mean, the true wild card in this is going to be, of course, the home field advantage. Which we've never seen in a college football postseason situation before.
No.
And I'm sure all the crowds are going to be just absolutely wacky.
Yep.
Notre Dame and Indiana, I think, honestly, in many ways, are leading off with sort of the most interesting game tonight. Notre Dame has looked great for 2.5 months, but they haven't played anybody really of note in 2.5 months. Their last time out, their defense has been the strength of the team all year long. Looked like utter shit against USC, if not for a couple of fourth quarter pick sixes, that game would have gone down to the last possession. On the other hand, the Notre Dame offense, which has looked lame the entire first part of the year, looked really good against USC. But the question with Riley Leonard is arm strength. And again, playing a weather game against an Indiana team, we don't really know what the hell to make of Indiana. They played one contending team, Ohio State. They lost bad. But you go back and look at the game in relation to the final scores where they fumbled 2 punts, and Ohio State with Ryan Day, tacked one on with like 2 seconds left. You take those scores off, and all of a sudden, like, wow, on the field, that was actually a pretty close game. And Indiana took some bad breaks. So hard to read into what either of these teams are coming into the one tonight. I think they're kind of leading with the feature, in my opinion.
All right, and you're likely to face a Beckless Georgia team in the next round. So the winner of that game is going to come out, in fairly decent shape. Although I don't know what the backup looks like for Georgia, but
we saw him at the SEC title game. He's not good.
He's not ready. At least maybe he'll be good in 2 years. He's not ready to fucking play now.
I mean, to me, he just didn't look like he had the arm to begin with.
Like
I said, I mean, he threw one of the stupidest interceptions I've ever seen at the end of the game.
That was so weird.
Gave Texas a chance to actually win the game. They think he went down and tied.
Yeah.
But with a chance really to run the clock out, he threw this mystery ball when he was under pressure.
Mystery ball.
That was like,
there was no one there.
I'm throwing it into the middle of the Texas safety's chest. And if his guy had blocked instead of jumping up and down celebrating, it probably would have been pick six.
Yep.
And ball game Texas. So if I'm Kirby Smart, not a lot of confidence in that kid headed into the playoff.
All right. Well, maybe the Benners. I was thinking a while back when Notre Dame was like 14-1 of taking a shot with them when they got on this roll against, as you say, not necessarily championship
service academy.
teams.
I mean,
now it's like it was 8-1 or something, 8 and a hook, 9 maybe, going into the CFP. And if they get by Indiana, then you would have to give them a pretty good chance of getting by Georgia with the backup QB. All right, let's do this, Lubie. We'll come back. We have a big board, some college predictions here from the professor, and that's coming up in a moment as we'll return with all of that in a moment on a Degenerate Friday. Now that.
The time.
8:37.
Hey, folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched, steaks hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-4...
We have the professor with us, and we want to accomplish many things here. Mike Lubie, of course, has stated his position on last night's Dolphin game, angry with all of these social media posts about Brian Flores, which, Professor, I mean, looming very large right now is the fact that you, had what appeared to be or sounded like just an absurd conspiracy
theory. Can we get a
theory.
little, like, Lubie's getting angry? Can we get angry that Stephen Ross and the Dolphins let Ryan fucking Fitzpatrick into the building to spread his Lucky Charms magic?
Oh, my God, you're right. Oh, no.
First fucking time they do it, Tua goes down with a concussion. Probably a career ender. I mean, like, how do you let that piece of shit into the fucking building?
Good for you, Ken. I didn't even think about that.
The fucking cops arrest Tyreek Hill, but you let Ryan Fitzpatrick run around the city. Do your fucking job, Miami-Dade police. The minute that fucking Lucky Charms motherfucker showed up in the city, he should have been thrown in fucking prison. Like, How do you let that piece of garbage into your fucking building, Ross? I mean, the man spent 2 years along with Flores trying to kill Tua. And the first time he shows up, what happens? Like, I can't believe you let that scumbag into the building. Like,
Yeah,
unbelievable.
bad omen. No doubt about it. Bad sign.
The best way to kick off your day is with Defo plus Lubie. We now return to the Defo Show.
All right, here we go. Welcome back to the show. Well, we have the professor with us. We'll have a big board coming up. I also want to get his insight into whatever it is that we can wager on. I would imagine, Professor, your concentration will be heavily on these college football playoff games. Is that the direction you're going to go in here with some selections?
Well, what other direction would we go?
Would you do any of the bowls?
You know, you might have some.
I did take a little on the
You're a
bowls
bowl
over the end of
game?
the week. Did okay. We had Memphis, which was honestly a fairly fortunate cover because we took them early based on the early opt-out list when Hennigan decided to play. So we got them at 4 and a hook and won by a hook.
All right.
And then we were with, I think, everybody on the planet with UNLV, which was a huge line move. Moved from UNLV +2 to UNLV, I think it was -3 and a hook by game time. And it went exactly according to script. Cal's offense, particularly in the second half, looked totally incompetent without Mendoza at quarterback. They got down to their 4th-team quarterback at one point because the 3rd-teamer got hurt during the game.
Jesus.
And couldn't throw the football at all. So, that went to script. And then last night, wasn't on it, but sort of had the reversal where all the opt-outs seemed to favor Georgia State. But what you didn't know is that Georgia State's starting quarterback was going to, have a season's worth of interceptions in one game. Turn the ball over 5 times, and Sam Houston comes out, which again was a weird public move for Sam Houston. I think the game went from 5.5 to 6 to 3.5 at game time. And went totally against the opt-outs because the opt-outs definitely favored Georgia State in that situation.
All right. So a mixed bag of results early on, mostly negative.
Oh, the Boca Raton Bowl, another one where the opt-outs seemed to significantly favor James Madison as everybody is transferring from Western Kentucky, but they let the quarterback play even though I think he's already signed with somebody and didn't do him any good because he was throwing to, dudes they pulled out of the mall at Boca Raton. Western Kentucky's coach was recruiting in the parking lot of Town Center before the game.
All right,
Can you catch a football? Come play tonight.
Yeah. Oh, all right. We start out tonight with what you say is the most attractive, possibly, of the 4 games on tap in the college football playoff, first ever with 12 teams. So,
I mean most attractive from a viewing standpoint, not necessarily from a wagering standpoint. I mean, lots of factors here. Start with the weather, which is supposed to be cold, but not and they can't seem to decide between snow and rain in this one. It looks to me like it's going to be snow. But 2 teams that really have experience with these kind of weather conditions. Indiana looked great against Purdue in half a blizzard early in the year, and Notre Dame. I mean, to me, is Notre Dame going to wear those stupid green jerseys? Because that's like a huge bet against that every time they bust those fucking things out, especially when they're favorites with those goddamn ugly. No, I guess my slight lean inclination will be take the points in this spot. I don't know how much I buy the Notre Dame offense, particularly in weather. Indiana, again, is the mystery team of this entire situation because we just don't know what they are against quality football teams. I guess to some token, unless you're counting service academies as quality football teams, we don't really know what Notre Dame really is against high-quality teams. They don't have a lot on their schedule since the calendar turned past September. So, I mean, we're going to see. But in that situation, particularly with weather involved, I would lean a little bit towards taking the points in this spot.
All right. What else you have?
Well, again, tomorrow we've got Penn State currently laying 8.5 to SMU, or 8.5 is what I'm showing. Anyway, I don't know what you got there, Defo. This looks like
I ain't no hook here, but that was like from 3 days ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
That one hasn't moved that much. Let me look at 25 degrees with a chance. I'm certainly showing a 40% chance of precipitation, which would mean snow in 25-degree weather. It's going to be cold. Snow on the ground. Possible snow in the air for SMU. Again, we saw SMU last year in this situation in the Fenway Bowl where they came in as huge favorites against Boston College, and they looked like an utter disaster. And then if you look at the way SMU plays offense, it is not built for cold and snow. It is built for 80 degrees and muggy in Dallas, Texas, or better yet, indoors in Dallas, Texas. If you watch them play, they play speed option and they like to throw the ball deep. They're not one of these teams that wants to throw 10 bubble screens every quarter. Their quarterback wants to buy time using his legs and chuck the ball deep. That is not a weather kind of built offense there. Penn State much more so. They have run the ball well. They ran the ball well against Oregon. Their problem is really Aller, who's their quarterback. But his thing is he has a strong arm. So if anybody's going to drive the ball through the wind and snow in this matchup, it's going to be him. And Penn State really, they've got a good front seven defensively. I don't really see, with this particular weather condition, any reason not to lay the points. Obviously, above a touchdown is going to make you nervous. But I think Penn State, and look, it's a natural whiteout, right? They got snow. I'm sure they'll all be dressed like idiots like they always are when they do their Klan rally themed game and wear the all white. So, Penn State -8 in the hook looks like a natural and probably the best play of the day to me tomorrow.
All right. What else are you looking at?
Clemson and Texas, I'm not inclined to make a pick. Pick your poison to me. I do think Texas is going to win the game. But 12.5 is a monster number for a team that has been struggling a little bit offensively the last few weeks. On the other hand, they've been struggling against some very good defensive fronts with Georgia, who, again, we picked Georgia in the SEC title game. We won even with a backup quarterback. Georgia just kind of has their number. Texas A&M, same thing. They only scored 17. But, again, very stout defensive front seven for Texas A&M. I don't know that I think Clemson is anywhere close to that weight class, but I'm not inclined to lay 12.5 in that spot. Just honestly, I would just say watch this one or make your pick light or maybe go under 51.5. I suspect, honestly, when you look at most of Texas's big matchups the last few years, other than the Washington game, their games tend to go under with these big feature matchups. So, 51.5 is a pretty good number. I would, if you force me to play this, I guess I'd go under 51 and a hook. But I'm not inclined to get involved with this one.
All right. And then Ohio State and Tennessee.
Now back up to 7.5. It's bounced between 7.5 and 7 all week long. Look, PC asked me yesterday, which of these underdogs can win? I said both Indiana and Tennessee can win. If you're going to ask me one that will win, I'd be inclined to go to Tennessee. You look at Ohio State, the problem with their team really for the last couple months has been their offensive line. Well, you're going into the absolute 100% strength of the Tennessee Volunteers, which is their defensive line. They are, along with Georgia, probably the most talented defensive front in the country, and they're the deepest. They rotate 10 guys. They are built on that old Urban Meyer load up on defensive lineman theory. They're deep. They're talented. I think they can give off Ohio's, particularly if Ryan Day, once again, does not know the identity of his football teams. It's something we talked about. He recruits these teams based on almost like a spread where they're going to throw the ball 50. And then he gets into games and he wants to be like, tough guy, Ryan Day. We're going to play old school football.
It's what he hates.
Run to the left and run to the right and go, go, go. Newt Rockney bullshit.
Yeah.
Like he did against Michigan. And he's like, oh, shit, when we run, we can only go for like 2 yards a carry. Even though we paid $1 billion
for running backs.
Running backs. You can't, if you have $10 million worth of running backs and you put them behind a bubblegum offensive line, it doesn't really work out very well. So if you're going to ask me who can win, Indiana and Tennessee can both win as underdogs. Who's more likely? I think it's Tennessee. Again, particularly if Ryan Day gets into his old school bullshit bag and tries to slug it out between the tackles. against Tennessee in a situation where he definitely does not have the advantage.
All right, Professor, with a play on Tennessee, taking Penn State, slightly into Indiana, and they watch it, but maybe take the under in the Texas Clemson game. All right, let's get to it. The feature.
And today, again, if you favor bowl opt-outs, which I do, even though the number is exploding upwards, started 3.5. I'm currently showing it at 6. Ohio at noon today is the only team that really does not have, only team in the bowl system that I know of that does not have a significant opt-out or transfer portal player on their roster. Now they're laying 6. It was 3.5. But big advantage against Jacksonville State, who on top of all the players lost their coach, Rich Rodriguez, to West Virginia, who will not be coaching in the ball game. So the Bobcats today, even at the -6, I think they're playable.
All right, sounds good. You ready to roll it, Lubie? The big board, Professor's big board, and okay, beautiful.
Well, I mean, what else are we going to do this
Yeah.
week of the year, right? Like everything has to be Christmas. I guess we could do a Hanukkah theme, but we're not going to. Or
Well, we'll just include that in as drafting in as the 1 and 1A, like an entry.
Right. So it is. Well, actually, you know what? The first one could actually be a Hanukkah present. Now that I think about it. So I didn't put the word in there, but our big board of sports / Christmas / Hanukkah presents for 2024, because there's a lot of people in the sports world that need things, and we're here to make the suggestions. In case you get one of these people in your Secret Santa,
Yes,
you know what to give them. And we'll start with number 5, which is Mets owner Steve Cohen needs a lot of GameStop stock, because this is the point in his life where everybody decided he was a total bag of shit, and America grew to hate him because not only did he short GameStop and get screwed by the public, but supposedly he was instrumental in the whole thing where Robinhood stopped trading in the middle of the run, and everybody basically turned around and said, oh yeah, Steve Cohen is a total. And what has he done? He's trying to ruin Major League Baseball in order to give the Mets the World Series. As I don't know, I want to say a present to himself, or just revenge on Netflix for making that movie about him and having him played by, I think it was Vincent D'Onofrio, who basically played Steve Cohen the same way he played the Kingpin in the Daredevil movie. I mean, and he's bald and from New York and a total criminal, so it kind of works, right? But look, the man is still so angry and upset about the whole GameStop thing that he gave Juan Soto $750 million, presumably from money stolen from Robinhood during that whole GameStop.
Yeah, what's it to him?
Like, I don't think Juan Soto's a bad player, but when you're just giving just an average outfielder $750 million,
insane. I think he's going to pitch.
Sort of seem like you're maybe trying to reach there a little bit. So,
unless this guy is also Jerry Koosman. I mean, is he really worth that kind of money?
If you got some GameStop stock still sitting in your portfolio, if you wanted to give a share or two to Steve Cohen for Hanukkah, maybe it would help the sports world balance out a little bit.
All right, very good start there. Number 5, you're rolling.
Oh my God, you're classic.
Number 4 for SEC fans, what they really want. The all
yes, 100%.
Because let's be honest, it doesn't matter how many fucking SEC teams are in there. They're going to want one more SEC.
Yes.
If you gave them 11 of the 12 playoff spots and it was just the Big Ten champ and the SEC, they're going to be like, well, I don't know if Oregon really should be in there over Kentucky. Kentucky did beat Ole Miss at home, so maybe we ought to kick Oregon out and put Kentucky into the playoff. Let's be honest. If they weren't clear this year, and I think they were very clear, they've made themselves 110,000% clear this year. All they want is the all-SEC playoff. Yep. So let's just go ahead and fucking give it to them.
Concede to the popular demand.
Just go ahead. The rest of us will play for the national, or the other than the SEC national championship.
Yes, secondary championship.
And much like you do with your cousins in your relationships and your breeding habits, you could go ahead and do what you want to do and just keep it among yourselves.
That's true.
It's family after all.
Yeah,
It'll make Lane Kiffin happy. He won't be on Twitter bitching. It'll make all the Alabama fans happy. All these people, and just wah. Not enough playoff spots. Go ahead and just have your own playoffs.
That's it. It's like
Simple solution of all of them.
You really should just have
just start your own
If the
organization.
Nashville network still around, you could just play the games there. The rest of us go on not caring, and you could have your own thing.
It happens. My favorite sport, or among them, Dean Chance, the former pitcher, actually started his own boxing organization that nobody ever heard of, and yet they were sanctioning any number of world title fights. Why not just have your own championship?
You could be like Dana White, where you're like, I want a thing where people just slap each other, so I'm going to start my own thing.
Yeah, exactly. All right, that's number 4. Good one. And again, off to a very explosive start here.
Number 3, and I got to be honest with you, this is something I never thought I would want to give someone, a person I never thought I would ever want to give a Christmas present to.
Right.
But it has gotten to the point where I'm actually starting to feel a little pity in my heart and feel like we need to do something for this person. And that is number 3, which is for Bill Belichick, some comfort with your own age. Like, honestly, I'm sorry, Grandpa. It has just gotten fucking sad at this point. Like, you're dating this 20-whatever-year-old. You're going back to college. There's no fucking way you want to deal with, like, Grandma Jenny over some 4-star quarterback out of Johnson City, Tennessee, and how much you're recruiting. Like, I'm sorry. I know, like, when we've gone down to Jimmy Johnson's, Jimmy's got nice safety. Like, it's just like the dude who married Anna Nicole Smith at this point. Like, it's just fucking sad. It really is. I'm sorry it all went to shit when Brady left you, but you can't make up for it by fucking with the young people at this point.
Unbelievable. Yeah. What are this woman's parents?
And like dudes are like, oh, see, Bill Belichick can recruit. Look at his girlfriend. You really think she's there because she likes him so much? Because she found him so fucking charming? I mean,
that is one of the strangest ever in the history of romance.
Right? Like, I mean, I'm sorry, Bill, but like 40-year-old women are more attractive than they've ever been between the working out and the plastic surgery and everything.
Yeah.
And you just look like sad grandpa at this point.
Yep.
It's honestly
like Matt Gates. What are you talking about?
A 50-year difference. I mean, that's fucking.
He was
long.
only.
And
60.
now you're taking a college job that everybody knows you don't fucking want. Like,
Right,
nobody knows. Everybody knows. Not only a college, but the University of North Carolina, a school that's never been fucking good in football ever.
Yeah.
And has had some good teams, and we know has a fetish for old dudes as coaches.
Yeah,
So really, they're almost as pathetic as his girlfriend. They just like to chase grandfathers around. North Carolina's like, who's almost as old and sad as Mac Brown? Oh, Bill Belichick. Let's go get him.
You're not wrong. Bill Guthridge was after.
Imagine your parents
honestly.
sitting at the table for Thanksgiving with a 72-year-old belching Bill Belichick.
Right?
Probably younger than
And you're looking, going, and they're in their 50s.
yeah, they're younger than him. He dated their parents.
That is a strange dynamic, no doubt.
So like I said, Bill, like, honestly, when the fucking Falcons turned you down last year,
Yeah, the Falcons
you
for Raheem
probably
Morris.
should have taken
Morris.
that as a hint. Like, there's no fountain of youth, dude. We just want to see you ride off into the sunset peacefully. And this is not the path. Running around pretending like you're still 29 years old is not the way it goes. I never thought I'd feel any pity for this man. I thought, like, I would be, I don't want to see Clemson and Dabo beating him up 48-0 next year. I don't want to see Dabu on the sideline say it's because little baby Jeebus doesn't love you enough, Bill.
Doesn't love you enough.
Because you're not part of the path of righteous, man, like we here are at Clemson, Bill. I don't want to see that.
No,
Again, just
All right, that's number 3.
fade into the sunset, Bill. It's time.
Very unusual to see the professor any kind of sympathy, empathy, any desire to do anything nice for Bill Belichick. All right, number 2.
Number 2. For bitchy old white football fans everywhere, Mike Vrabel is your new head coach. Holy shit, how many teams am I seeing who now are just desperate to have Mike Vrabel as their coach? And it's always some 50 to 60-year-old white dude bitching about these guys don't play hard like I did in high school. Who the hell cares how hard they play? I give a shit what Patrick Mahomes does on Tuesdays during the season.
Yeah. I can't give a shit.
I give a damn about how tough the Miami Dolphins play calling is between the tackles. Let's bring in Mike Vrabel. Dude, Mike Vrabel wasn't ever good. Like, when did we get to this point where we're like so attached to this 1950s style football that these old dudes are dreaming of that we now want to recruit coaches who never won playoff games and usually went somewhere around 500.
Yes. Where's the new blood? You're asking.
Yeah. Again, was anybody bitching when Tua was flipping the ball around behind his back with no look passes at the goal line and it was working? No. You don't really give a shit about old style football. You just care about who wins and loses games, what the spread is.
Yep.
Give me that bullshit.
He's perfect.
But no, really. The Bears, the Jets, the Dolphins, the Cleveland Browns. Everybody wants Mike freaking Vrabel.
All of a sudden, he got good. Yes. Surprised Adam Gase isn't getting a couple of calls.
And by the way, again, we've done this story before. Mike Vrabel, the guy who got arrested for stealing Miller Lite in a casino. The guy who couldn't figure out how to get free beer at a casino. You want that to be your head coach.
And he says he could easily be in the Trump cabinet based on that. Man. All right, that's number 2. Mike Vrabel.
For bitchy old white guy, NFL fans everywhere, Mike Vrabel waiting for you as your new head coach under the Christmas tree. Because apparently that's what you all want. We're going to have to work the schedule so that he can coach like 8 different teams next year.
If it was up to Rob Manfred, coaches would be allowed to do things like that. Just change teams in the season and then go back to the team they came from and keep coaching. All right, number 2. Number 1 on the list.
Finally, for the one man in sports who is never happy, who has everything and can't stop complaining, who has pathologically always going to have to be fighting with somebody, and we saw it again this week. The one thing that he apparently has always wanted, and we're going to get it to him for Christmas somehow. I'm not sure how. We may have to consult a member of the Trump cabinet for this. And that is, for Aaron Rodgers, polio. I mean, Aaron Rodgers can't be more clear that his number 1 goal is to bring back polio. Like he brought about it again this week, where if you're going to criticize me, tell me about your vaccination status.
Yeah.
So if we're going to get him something, I think polio is the perfect gift for Aaron Rodgers. And let's be honest, what he really wants is RFK Jr. to pay more attention to him.
Yeah.
Because he's got like this weird fake daddy thing with RFK Jr., presumably because his own father still won't talk to him. And what better way to get RFK Jr.'s attention than to get polio?
I wonder, does that impact his Jets contract? Does he have remaining money on there?
I mean, sadly,
he might be rooting for this too.
Sadly, he actually could be in an iron lung and still be the best quarterback on the Jets.
They're happy with him now.
But again, if we need the perfect Christmas gift, and I think we do, for the man who has everything, polio for Aaron Rodgers. So if anybody knows where to get a needle full of polio, let us know on the show so we can send it to Aaron Rodgers.
Holy Jonas Salk, man. We got to find, dig up the body there and see if he's got an answer for that. Excellent stuff as always, Professor. I hope you'll be with me in about 10 minutes as we try to bury various bookmakers around the country. That'll be great. And if we can reprise a few of these, I think you were able to do it last time. I think we need to throw that out there to the general public. All right. So that'll be great. Always a pleasure, my friend. We'll talk to you in a few. Thanks.
Sir.
All right. The Professor, ladies and gentlemen. Classic shit as always, Professor.
Great.
Comes through. I think that's like the best segment I've seen in all of streaming, talk radio, whatever platform we've been on. So
He's great.
I'll have to bring that to you. Degenerate Friday. We're going to have a short week of Defo shows next week, although we will be bouncing around with various shows.
Yes.
But I think we're just going to do Monday's show next week
Yes.
of this particular program.
Yeah, well, because you have Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, the day after
Holy
Christmas
shit,
Day.
nobody wants to work after that. So
And the next week we'll figure it out. It's New Year's week. So I don't know. We'll figure it out.
and hopefully one of these clandestine meetings will result in some progress over the next couple of weeks. We'll see. All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody. For the professor, for Mike Lubie, with some Jeff.
Yeah, Monday.
We'll see you Monday. So and we'll wish you happy holidays then, and enjoy the weekend and get set to party until you drop. We'll see you next time as we leave you know that.
The time.
9:05.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my show.